Hey folks, I'm Dave. Welcome to the basement. So the time has finally come to wrap up January's collecting activities. So I thought I would get a little video together and share everything with you. To begin with is this first one that I picked up totally blind by. Did so on the cover art alone, which, I think it's pretty cool. I just saw this and had no idea who the band were or are or anything about them. It's actually self-titled from a band called Boats with a Z instead of an S. Although it only shows two guys on here, there's obviously more involved. Well, not obviously, but there are more involved in the project as I learn more about these guys. But anyway, so this is, like I said, the self-titled album from Boats. Didn't know anything about them. Got it home, did some digging. Turns out that they are a studio or a session project, studio project. This is their only album, one and done. Came out in 1979, and a lot of these guys had ties to the Muscle Shoals thing going on down there in Alabama, and so I guess it was just one of those projects. It came out on Capricorn Records, which, if you know anything about Capricorn, 1979 was the year that they went bankrupt, so this was probably one of their final albums before shutting down. And of course, they got back together in 91, I think it was. Bands like Cake were on the album, or were on the label. Anyway, here's the inner. You can barely see that. It's kind of got the logo on there. Anyway, enough about the aesthetics of it. So what this is pretty much standard fare 70s pop oriented rock, distinctive bass, nice vocal harmonies, strings, horns. I think like Chicago, same period Chicago. It's not bad. It's all right. I really didn't see much that stood out onto the album or from the album other than Big Deal, fourth track on the first side, if you want to check that one out. Kind of had that sort of disco guitar sound to it, which was pretty funky, and a nice, really full sound. It was a little bit more enjoyable than the rest of them. Not that this was a bad album. It just, it's just generally not my thing. But I think I'll keep this sticking around in the collection. What with the artwork is just pretty cool. So anyway, this is from 1970. All right, so if you've watched any of my previous videos, there's only two, but if you hopefully continue to watch the channel, blind buys are kind of my thing. I kind of really enjoy just finding something I've never heard of, seen before, and I don't even bother checking it out and streaming anything. I just grab it and, put it on the turntable, and what shall be. And most of the time, I really feel good about the picks that I make. Some have been gems. They've been really great albums, really surprising. Some are okay, they're fine. Like that last one, Boats, was okay. This one was a semi-blind buy, and it also sort of proves the fact that every now and then you're going to get a turd. So anyway, this is the one and only album from this band, and the reason I picked it up, it's called A True Story by Jelly, and the reason I picked it up is because I saw her on the cover. That's Amy Madigan, the actress, and I had no idea she was involved in music in any shape or form, so I'm like, gotta pick this one up. So I did, brought it home, checked it out. Sure enough, prior to getting into the whole acting thing in Chicago, she was actually going down the musical career sort of path, and this was the band that she fronted. I guess it was not necessarily her first band, but it was the only band that she recorded with. This came out in 1977 on Asylum, by the way. Sorry about that. Again, one and done. She even went so far as to appear in Playboy, covered herself in Jelly and everything like that to, promote the band. But man, I spun this. It's obviously she switched to acting, and that was probably the right call. Not that she was not talented musically or vocally, but this was just really, really boring 70s pop rock. God, I mean, they do a cover of Jelly Roll Morton's Dr. Jazz on here, and even that was really flat. It just was, yeah. So I'm not keeping this one. This is one of those rare strikeouts, but strikeout nevertheless. So from 1977, the one. All right, so not a blind buy on this one. If you caught my December 2023 video, the very first video on the channel, you might have noticed that I was kind of high on this debut album from a stoner doom band called Atala from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. This is Glacial Rule by that band. This came out in 2017. This is their second album and their most recent so far. And the band is pretty much the same. The drummer, new drummer, but the rest of the crew is the same. So this was self-released. Came in 2017, like I said. It came out in two different colors of vinyl. This is a frost blue. I think there was only 400 of these pressed. It also had a red, fire red or something like that, that came out. I'm not sure if any of those are still available and if it's in the second print yet or not. I don't know. You can check out their Bandcamp page and check them out. But yeah, anyway, so this is, like I said, their sophomore album. And I found this to be a lot more heavy doom, more plotting than the first album. It's little bit more droning, just not as groovy or fuzzy as the debut, but still, nonetheless, it's still pretty good. I enjoyed the very first track, Butte de Mort. It's actually, and they kind of do the thing that I love when they put some historical context to the song. It's about an actual place in Wisconsin where back in the pre-colonial days, the French encountered and massacred many people of the Sauk Nation. And so yeah, I mean, it's a tragic story, but it was a good song for the album. They did really well with it. Vocals are still kind of iffy at times, like I mentioned on the debut, but still, it's a good album. Like I say, I prefer the debut over this one, but I don't know. I think you should just give it a check. Check this one out. That's what I'm trying to say. This is pretty decent doom if you're into doom. Not so much stoner doom anymore, but almost straight up doom. So this is Glacial Rule by Atala. And now back to the blind buys. When I saw this one, it is called The Flame by Annabelle Lamb. This turns out to be her sophomore album. But when I saw this in the stacks there, it's just, I mean, 80s. So I had to take a chance. I mean, look at the get up and and there's even the Japanese writing and anyway, Chinese maybe. Anyway, like I said, this came out in 1984 on A&M, so it's celebrating 40 years this year. And Annabelle Lamb, as it turns out, because I didn't know anything about her when I picked it up, she's an English singer. To me, she sounds a little like Chrissie Hynde of the Pretenders, maybe. She's kind of got that same sort of style. But yeah, this album is a pretty enjoyable sort of new wave, not sort of, but definitely a new wave album. Touches of the avant-garde every now and then, which makes it pretty interesting. It's even got a little bit of jazz now and then, which is kind of weird, but still kind of good. Tracks that I think you should check out that I enjoyed. Weapon of Love is a really good one. It's upbeat. It's got a driving groove to it. Nice little solo as well. Guitar solo. What the Eye Sees, the last track on side one, that one was really interesting. It's like sounded like a mix of Eurythmics and Art of Noise, which I was really intrigued by. It sounded really good. The title track, The Flame, that one reminds me a lot, and maybe a little bit too much, of Bowie's Heroes. I mean, just if you listen to that track, if you can find it on YouTube, I think you'll catch what I mean by that. And then Inside of My Head, which was the next to last song on the album. I'm surprised that one didn't get to be more of a hit back in the day. I mean, it's just almost quintessential 80s synth pop. It was really good. So yeah, I'm really kind of surprised that this album didn't, or at least I wasn't aware of it. Maybe you all have heard about this and I'm just late to the party, but really enjoyable stuff. I think you, if you're a fan of 80s music in general, this is something you might want to check out. So yeah, this is The Flame by Annabelle Lamb. So this next one is far from a blind buy, and that's Beautiful Loser by Bob Seger on Capitol Records. Came out in 1975. You know, Bob Seger is legendary here in Michigan. Not so much everywhere else, and I think there's sort of a love-hate relationship with Bob in the rest of the community out there. But here in Michigan, I'm not going to apologize, man. This dude rocks. So yeah, this, like I said, came out in 1975. This was the last album prior to him going the whole Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, and really the last album where he really broke nationwide. The songs on here, I mean, that you all know these songs, but probably not these versions. So of course there's Beautiful Loser, which is a great song, but the more popular version, the one that you'll hear on everywhere, is off of the Live Bullet album, which came out after this, the live album, and that just broke Bob open, broke him nationwide, and that really just guaranteed his shoot up the ladder. So, but anyway, there's Beautiful Loser. Kathmandu is on here, which again, the live version is definitely more popular, and I actually think better. Side note, up in Unionville, Michigan, up in the Thumb area, there is a bar called Kathmandu. They got a menu that's all Bob Seger themed. It's you know, a biker dive bar, of course, but man, that's pretty cool. I really enjoy that place. Traveling Man is another well-known song. Again, the Live Bullet version is a lot more popular, and that's really my favorite song on this album is Traveling Man. I just really enjoy that song. And then there's Nutbush City Limits, cover a Tina Turner song, which again, everybody knows the live version, not so much this one. So even though the songs are the same, I'll admit that the energy level on the studio album just can't compare with what's going on the live album, and I definitely prefer all of the live versions over this one. So this is an okay album. If you're not a Bob Seger fan, you probably don't even want to bother with this one. Being a Bob Seger fan, it's in my collection and is where it should be, and if it's not in yours and you're a Bob Seger fan, don't pass it up. I mean, it's interesting to hear the difference between the studio versions and the live versions. But yeah, so 1975, coming up next year, 50 years, is Beautiful Loser by Bob Seger. And back on the Blind Buy train, this is the debut album called Branded by a band called American Tears. And what drew me to this was the cover. So that's definitely an interesting looking cover. Looking at the guys, I'm thinking some glam rock, and I don't know if you can see it really well, but I mean, it was kind of interesting. They even had a picture of themselves in the background there, which kind of weird. But what mostly caught my attention, I mean, other than that stuff, was it was produced by Mark Mangold. So I thought, okay, there's a name I know. I can check this out. So it came out in 1974 on Columbia. Yeah, that's right, 1974 on Columbia. It's the debut album. Turns out this is kind of this is a New York band, sort of a light prog band, and they're really heavy on the synth, well, on the piano, the organ, with a little bit of synth. It's kind of what their shtick is. It's not bad. I think they hurt themselves. They have an overabundance of ballads, which are kind of duds, and that kind of brings the album down. And a lot of it, I'm not sure they really knew what they wanted to be. It's jazzy, it's funky, some bluesiness to it, a little bit of spaciness with synth. It's kind of all over the place, you know. But still, there were a couple of tracks on there. The second song, if you want to check this out, is Dr. Abreaction. This is the most bluesy track on the album. It has some funky organ to go along with it. A little bit of that spacey synth that I was talking about. And then the other one, also on side one, Crooked is Quicker. That one, really heavy on the organ, and it's more of a funky organ. I mean, it was really cool, kind of a moving sort of song. But beyond that, you know, really, it was okay. I don't know that I'm actually going to go any further in their catalog. I think they released 1 or 2 more albums, but if I come across them, I'll pick them up just to see how things might have progressed. Because like I said, it sounds like they're trying to find their sound here, and maybe they did in subsequent albums. Maybe you know more about them than I do. Hit me up in the comments. I'd certainly love to talk about these guys with you. So yeah, this is Branded by American Tears, 1974, their debut album. All right, this album is one that you all know, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. Just want to give my thoughts about it. This is the band's 4th album, came out in 1972 on Mercury. Yeah, let me double check. Mercury. Yep, this is Demons and Wizards by Uriah Heep. And so this is an English legendary band. In the whole proto metal, early metal style, and yeah, as you can see, this is a repress. This is a 1974 repress, which, you know, just notice I still have the sticker. I got this at Everybody's Records down in Cincinnati or Louisville. I think it's Louisville. Anyway, so yeah, 4th album from Uriah Heep. This is the first one where Lee Kerslake and is it Gary Thane, drummer and bass player, respectively. They were permanent members, became permanent members of the band. Had been touring, but now are recording with them. And this is one of those funky tri-gate things, which are kind of annoying to get the record out of, but interesting nevertheless. So yeah, everybody knows this album. It's just a classic. Easy Livin' was, you all know that song. If you don't know Uriah Heep, you know that song. This was I think their only top 40 hit, reached number 39, I believe it was. Rainbow Demon is also a great track. Really doomy in my mind. It was really kind of a heavy doom. Lots of Hammond organ, which I love. And then Paradise, The Spell. That was just like, I mean, to me, that sounded almost, you know, like Psych. Very mellow listen, nice groove to it. So yeah, those are the 3 tracks I like the most off this album. But I mean, from start to finish, this is a really good album. Probably a great album for those in the know, if you know what I mean. Kind of floated under the radar, but at the time. But I think this has definitely become a legend over time. So. Yeah, this is Demons and Wizards by Uriah Heep. All right, last up for today is, again, definitely not a blind buy. I'd actually picked this one up on cassette back in, maybe it was 85, 86. Didn't get the vinyl till much later, but this has always been a staple in my collection. This is my favorite album from my favorite new wave of British heavy metal band. This is their 6th album, came out in 1984 and actually just celebrated its 40th anniversary in January, and that is Crusader by Saxon, English new wave of British heavy metal band. I mean, these guys, they've always kind of been just under the radar, you know. They definitely don't get the love that Priest and Maiden get, but they've always been my favorite. I like these guys more than I do Maiden and Priest. I'll admit it. But so yeah, when I first came across this in it was, like I said, it was a cassette in a hole-in-a-wall record store called Rock of Ages in Garden City. This cover just grabbed me, and I mean, it is probably one of the better metal covers of the 80s. Just really pretty cool. And so I grabbed it, took it home, and I have been enamored with this album ever since. This is absolutely fantastic. And it did actually crack the Billboard, I think, or the top 200 somewhere. It just kind of squeaked in, but nevertheless, still not quite as popular as they should have been, and should be still, because they're still together, still out there. In fact, my wife and I are excited to go see them in May when they come through. Now they're coming through with Uriah Heep. She's a real big Uriah Heep fan. She's okay on Saxon, but you know, I'm gonna lose my mind. I know it. So anyway, back to the record. So yeah, this, like I said, is my favorite. Pretty solid favorite from this band. They've got a lot of work to go through. I mean, they've been together since late 70s, 79 maybe was their first album, their self-titled album, and they're still cranking them out. They just released Hellfire and Damnation last month, which I'll show you in a coming update. But anyway, as far as this album goes, if you don't know this album, it's just, I could go down each one of these tracks and just say how much I love it. But for me, Sailing to America is just, it's got a great groove. The vocal harmonies are just awesome. Just Let Me Rock is really wonderful bluesy song, and just love that bass line, man. And killer. I love prominent bass lines, and that's definitely got a good one. And of course, there is the title track, which is just a classic new wave of British heavy metal song. It's just, oh man, just awesome. Rock City is quite a little scorcher, with a sing-along chorus. You can't help but sing along to that. And then the album closes out with Run for Your Lives. Again, great chorus, fantastic riffs, beautiful leads, man. Can't really say enough about this album. This is fantastic. I love it. You'll love it. This is Crusader by Saxon. All right, well, that's it. I appreciate you sticking with me if you did. If you don't mind, maybe hit me with a like, maybe subscribe. I'm just getting started and would really love to get a little bit of a boost. Love to hear from you as well. Comments, I mean, please. I just want to talk about music. So, you know, hit me up with a comment if you like what you saw, some of these albums that you saw. If you think you got something I should check out. If you hated some of these albums, you know what, man, I just want to talk to you about it. So looking forward to hearing from you. But until then, until next time, I hope you all have an enjoyable week or month or however long it is before I get back to you, and keep them spinning. Take care.